Welcome back. You are watching a Sunday edition with me, Akisa Wandera. We continue with our conversation on some of the stories, political stories we have on the Standard newspaper today. And we were all about Onyonka. You've said that you're glad he's moved out of ODM because it would not be the preferred party for him. Most definite. I think one thing we should appreciate is that we have 7 MPs out of the 10 in Kisii. Currently inside Jubilee, supporting the manifest, pushing the agendas to the grassroots level. The issue of someone saying that Kisii is an ODM zone, I think he should tell Kenyans the truth, because the facts on the ground is that Kisii has decided to work with the government. Kisii has decided to be part of the coming coalition. Because
clarification. Now, what he said about the 7 MPs and 3 for the opposition is factually correct. This can be explained as follows. In the last election, 2013, at the parliamentary level, there were Jumbes that were elected on a TNA ticket, were 7, but the president, the TNA president, barely got 25% of the vote. What it suggests is that the dynamics on the ground that determine electability of people at that level have something to do with the clan. For example, where an MP gets elected, the dynamics of how he's going to win or to lose are determined by the interaction between the different houses that constitute the clan. So they voted, in principle, they said, this is our man, go and represent us in parliament. But in terms of handling the national cake, we don't trust the TNA candidate. All right. That's really what determines it.
Dismas, you have been itching to say something about Onyonka since we started.
Yeah, and maybe a clarification. There's actually one TNA MP from the entire Kisii nation. That's Jimmy Angwenyi. The rest are from Ford people and parties leaning to the Jubilee administration. And it's erroneous to say that the Kisii community has decided to be in government, because the Kisii community is part of the nation, Kenya, and everybody in Kenya is in government. Either you're in the minority or majority. And coming back to Richard Onyonka, is among the few people who have a very strong political connection with the masses. And it really doesn't matter which political party he runs on, he will get re-elected. And being a clever man, he decided to work with the Jubilee administration simply on the NYS matter. Because you remember Anne Waiguru with her project was dishing out favors to people who seemed to be friendly to Jubilee. So Richard Onyonka decided to work with Jubilee, and there was a lot of NYS activities within his constituency, NYS cohorts. And that's part of the reason as to why people are happy. Because for the first time, the young idle youth in the constituency would have access to some resources, and Professor would even confirm that even the funeral meetings became more exciting because they would donate a lot more money. And a number of them were unable to get married because they didn't have money, actually thanks to Anne Waiguru's project at NYS, which I think was a very good idea but poorly mismanaged, were able to get that. Now, the reason why Richard defected from ODM is again because of the ODM leadership in Kisii. It seems to be the case that Mr. Raila Odinga and the Kisii Governor Ongwae have got a list which they've already predetermined who is going to run for a particular seat. And in Kenya, political parties are actually special purpose vehicles. So if you are not in good terms with the political party leader, you are not going to get your nomination. So I think the reason why Richard decided to go to Ford Kenya, not because he loves Ford Kenya or he identifies with the philosophy. I even suspect he knows nothing about Ford Kenya, but he's just been guaranteed that he's going to be given that ticket to run. So it's important to make that clarification.
Okay, Yusuf, very close.
I'm enjoying the discussion because Prof is confessing, Mr. Dismas is confessing that we have done a good job.
So it works for you? It
works for me. I have very little to contribute, because if Dismas has confessed that we have employed all the youths and the marriage are going high, deliveries are free, you see, these are the things that matter in the society.
But I
if
think
we
it's
become
important.
factual on issues.
In my view
Mr. Dismas here still continues with the irony by saying that those who have defected do not know what they are doing, because they have defected to go for the better services.
But Ford Kenya is part of the NASA family. New Ford Kenya is what is in Jubilee. Ford Kenya is still part of
you see,
just a
under the leadership of Moses Wetangula.
You see, Prof, some of these small parties were tribal cocoon parties that we are trying to eradicate. Ford Kenya, Wiper,
By the way,
that's the Pandora's box.
Kindly, please, respect us by admitting that Jubilee is a Kalenjin Kikuyu alliance. Before you begin telling us the rest. It's unfair for you to insult the small parties because they're trying to get a vehicle in order to participate in the national power play, but for you to pretend, you see, first and foremost, I want you to understand that Jubilee is a primary merger of two communities. Then they have sought flower girls from other smaller communities to supplement the numbers so that they can claim a national spread.
But these smaller parties, are they also not trying to get some space in the political field?
That's right. I mean, thank you for that contribution. They are trying to get political space, democratic space, so they can participate in the political power play. Now, for us to discuss this thing effectively, you start effectively from the beginning. Now, clearly, it is important to accept at this point in time that the big parties are tribal. The small parties are tribal
as well.
Everybody, everything is
point.
tribal.
That was his point.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was not his point. His point was Jubilee is a national, and the other ones are little tribal outfits. When in fact, I'm not even a member of ODM. Yes. ODM is the largest political party in the country.
No. It is not.
Right?
It is.
It is. It is the largest.
It is not the largest.
Single political party.
In the country.
It's the largest.
Jubilee is the single largest political party.
Continue. I don't think we are.
No, Prof,
Okay, we'll argue about this, but I think I'll agree with him. The politics of this country is very political. And that does not mean that the Jubilee Party is out of the question. The politics in this country is very political.
It's tribal.
It's very tribal. The politics in this country is very tribal, regardless of whether you're in Jubilee Party or ODM or NASA or Chama Mashinani.
Some of these, I'll even go the extra mile and say that we don't even have political parties. We have special purpose vehicles headed by tribal chiefs. When TNA was being set up, it was set up by President Kenyatta. When URP was being set up, it was set up by the deputy president. In the absence of President Kenyatta today, you don't have TNA or you don't have Jubilee. If for some reason the deputy president decides to bolt from Jubilee, Jubilee will just remain a shell. It will remain a skeleton. If Raila Odinga decides to bolt from ODM, ODM will collapse. If Musalia Mudavadi decides to bolt from Amani National Congress, Amani National Congress will collapse. So I think really what we have in Kenya are very powerful individuals with a lot of resources who've been able to bring together their communities. And now they're masquerading to be political parties. Even if you ask my colleague here, why is he in Jubilee? He will not even, he has not even gone through the manifesto. And if he has, he will not be able to defend it into detail.
I think there are facts that we need to put right.
Reason being, I've been in the political space for the longest time possible, 15 years. And the first ever political manifesto in Kenya was put together by his colleague, Professor Onyonka. So what these political parties do right now is to get the soft copy and do a few changes, maybe change the name, change a few policies. Because if you go through all the manifestos, there's really no reason to read any manifesto today if you have gone through the one authored by Onyonka several years ago.
Yusuf, have the final word on this, then we close.
First of all, I have a lot of issues with Mr. Dismas. He started by telling the country that Kisses cannot join Jubilee because of the deputy president. You see, that one is an issue, is a personal issue between him and the deputy. Kisses have
issues.
No, I mean, how do you tell Kenyans?
And someone has also tweeted that us Kisses don't have a problem with Kalenjins, but that's one person.
You cannot preach that, for heaven's sake. My second point is that he has just, I've just quoted him saying that for us in Jubilee, we do not know our manifest. He's forgetting that our party, Jubilee, is already 5 years old, and we know what we are doing. We have already completed 70%. I was the former vice youth chair for URP. And for him to say that we do not know our manifest, I think he's trying to compare us to his friends in NASA who do not even know what they want in their coming general elections.
All right.
Because
Let's close it on that, gentlemen. Let's close it on that. Getting to now the main political conversations we've had through the week. We've been treated to a lot of drama by Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho, and we are taking a look at the governor versus the system and some of the things that are dogging him currently. Remember, this week he reported to the office of the for a grilling session by the detectives there on the scandal that is of his fake, quote-unquote, certificate. So let's just take a look at what he said before we get into the discussion.
Officers from the General Service Unit take their position. Defiant supporters begin their march towards the DCI offices. Not even the walls set by these officers can block their resolve. This is how the day began for Governor Hassan Ali Joho as he set out to honor police summons. Accompanied by his lawyer, Siaya Senator James Orengo, and prominent city lawyer Mohamed Balala, Joho finally made it here. Police needed him to give some explanations. And after some 2 hours of grilling, he emerged from the premises.
Hii nguvu ambayo anatumia sasa, atumie kushukisha bei ya unga nyumbani watu wale chakula kwa rais. Hii nguvu ambayo anatumia sasa, apigana na ufisadi katika serikali yake ya Jubilee.
All right, that is Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho just after he recorded a statement on his fake certificate scandals. Gentlemen, is Ali Hassan Joho a man under siege? I'll start with you, Dismas.
I think the president has done a very good job in making Ali Hassan Joho very popular in Kenya. And his popularity should be a source of concern for Mr. Raila Odinga. Because today, if you get an independent pollster to do an opinion poll on who is the most popular politician in Kenya, I suspect it's going to be Governor Ali Hassan Joho. To the extent that when there was a meeting not long ago in Bomet, the crowd was crying for Joho. And last week there was a meeting in Mathare, and people were still crying for Joho. But looking at the way Joho has been doing his mathematics and the way he's been doing his campaigns, again, it's very easy to come to the conclusion that, in fact, Hassan Joho has been on the extreme side. In as much as you may not like the president of Kenya, but you must respect the institution of the presidency. Yeah. There are some things you cannot dare do, even if you don't like President Kenyatta. And Americans have got a saying that you quit while you are ahead. At some stage, Hassan Joho was really at the top of the game, but because he has pushed it to the extreme, now people are beginning to question so many things about him. So the serious political capital that he had accumulated can easily be eroded if the criminal justice system decides to zoom in into his academic qualifications.
So he'll be his own undoing?
He'll be his own undoing. And you know, that's the tragedy with the majority of our politicians in Africa, that when you're on top of the world, you are on top of things, you imagine that you've got all variables under control, and you get so immersed in your power that you forget that you are just only a small player in the entire system. You may not like the President of the Republic of Kenya. You may be having personal issues. You could even be punished because of business relations, because there's a conversation that the reason why the two are in a fight, it's not even because of the poor voters in Kenya. It's not because of Mombasa, but it could be a personal, or rather it could be a business operation. But in as much as you don't like the president, you are supposed to treat him with a bit of caution. You must respect the institution. But on the same note, also the president must realize that he doesn't play in the same league with Governor Joho. Is the president of the Republic of Kenya, is a symbol of national unity. So there are so many things that the president is supposed to say, but which he cannot say, which is supposed to, the things that he's supposed to say in private, at the comfort of his house. Okay. So that any statement coming from the president affects the unity of the nation, and he needs to be careful on that.
Yusuf, what do you think?
For me, I think this is not a war. This is a matter of clarification. If I am called for clarifications on my academics, that is a personal issue. I do not have to call my tribe or my religion to follow me in large numbers to go there. That will not change anything. But
unfortunately, that's what we've seen in our political space. What I remember when NYS, when Cabinet Secretary for, the former Cabinet Secretary for Devolution, Anwar Guru, was called for a grilling session. There was a mass of people as well. But
I think our supporters and Kenyans at large will appreciate, because for us, it doesn't matter. Whether you come with your great-grandparents or you come with all your tribal family, that won't help. right now, the president is suffering political consequences in one way or the other, because those who have been sent, those who had been mentioned, had to step aside. It doesn't mean Mombasa does not have any other son or person most qualified to hold the position of governor and that ticket. It has a lot. The numbers are there. They have a lot of people to represent them. So I don't see why this issue is being hyped to that level of polarization or trying to cause, these are recipes for post-election violence. So I tend to condemn this, and I think we should guide our folks in the right direction.
Prof, are we overhyping the Joho situation?
First of all, let me step back one more step. Many years ago, during the ICC saga, the current president stood up and said, this is a personal matter and I will deal with it personally. As soon as the matter came to the front, he shifted it to the Kenyan public to help shield himself towards from attacks from ICC. So precedence has been set. When Waiguru ran into trouble, the same was done. Now, Joho is part and parcel of the Kenyan landscape. The problem with all these people is that they are all, victims of power. They are all victims of the attempt to carry power everywhere, irrespective of what the facts are. In this particular case, I want to echo this man's position. The president is the elected head of state. Now, I may not like him, I may not like his party, I may not like his family, but as long as he's president, I have an obligation as a citizen to be respectful. That's one. And that means Joho has an obligation to be respectful. He can express political difference in opinion when the president stops being president temporarily and exercises power as a Jubilee party leader. Joho can express an opinion that is at variance with that of the president, but he must not mix up the issues. Secondly, I want to talk about the issue of the D-minors and stuff like that.
Yes, and before we talk about that, let's just take a look at what he said about his grade, then we get back to what you were saying. Let's just take a look at what Governor Joho said about his grade in the KCSE examination of 1992.
I saw this coming. I knew how they were going to do it, and I had prepared myself, and I am ready. I'm going to face them. Wengine watasema, oh, explain the D+. I take pride of my results in the year 1993. And I should be an inspiration to other Kenyans that not doing well in Form 4 doesn't mean it's the end of the road for you.
All right, he saw it coming.
What I thought he would have said, I regret the fact that I did not do very well in KCSE. That's what I expected him to preface his comments. Because when he says he's very proud of the results, you are glorifying mediocrity. In whatever form. What he should have said is to basically to feel sorry for himself and for the public that supports him that he did so badly. At the same time, there is the element that despite the fact that I did very badly in my academic examinations, I happen to have other talents. The talents that are anchored on feelings, on emotions, that using that other side of me, I've been able to mobilize the public to empathize with me and give me political leadership. Well, but one thing he must not do is glorify a D-.
Well, to clarify, the press briefing he gave just a few days ago after this saga came out, he said the government should be concentrating on the narrative that this is someone who failed his KCSE but has managed to rise above it and become a billionaire and become a governor. That is what Governor Joho said. So, of course, he said he was proud of his D-, and this caught most of us off guard. Like, what do you mean?
You see, Akisa, you must understand where Governor Joe is coming from. The fact that he goes a D- may explain that he's got challenges in understanding English. So he may have actually wanted to say that despite where the grades he got, he's made very good progress. And if you look at the loss results for last year KCSE, we had about 35,000 students failing, completely failing. They didn't get any grade. Those are the kind of students who can take motivation from Governor Joe by saying that in as much as he got a very strong D-, he's been able to upscale, and right now he's gotten to the top.
So you agree this is a narrative we should be talking about?
Yeah, nobody should break into a dance and song that you've gotten a D-. For any parent whose son or daughter gets a D-, on that day, you know, it's like you are mourning. But having gotten the D- does not then give you the automatic ticket to go look for poison, you kill yourself, you say the world has come to an end. You must be able to dust yourself, rise to the occasion and say, in as much as I've failed, I'm going to the next level. And it's important for us to say that in Kenya, this matter of academic qualifications has been overemphasized for no reason. Like, for instance, when you look at most of the commissions in Kenya, the authors of the constitution say that you must be a lawyer. Like, for instance, the IBC indicates for you to be the chairman, you must be a lawyer. There are so many people who can do a very good job running the IBC, but because they're not lawyers, they're not getting that opportunity. And we have somebody like Winston Churchill. Actually, most successful people in the world don't have even any serious academic qualifications. You can look at them. You can look at Ted Turner, Richard Branson, but it does not necessarily mean that they are thick or they don't understand issues. For me, I think what we need to do as a nation is to tell people that if you get a D-, there's an opportunity for you to go to another course and upgrade slowly so that you get a bachelor's degree.
And become a governor.
Yeah, but the issue that we must run away from is the issue of now the fake degrees, fake certificates, and forgery. Because it seems to me that Governor Joe has got the gift of the gab. He can persuade people, but at some stage, you know, if you want to be governor, you must have an academic degree or an academic qualification. Then you go to the universities and actually buy that certificate. Because right now we have so many members of the National Assembly, Senate, or even governors with a bachelor's, master's, and PhD who can hardly speak in English, who can hardly understand anything. And it brings us to the point that now we expect Dr. Matiang'i to go to our public universities and fish out all those fake degrees so that we are able to appreciate what our leadership possesses. And another, I think, a fallacy that was created when we were coming up with the requirement that we must have a bachelor's degree. We assume that if you've got a bachelor's degree, you are a man of integrity, you are a man of values, you are not going to steal. All the governors in Kenya have got a bachelor's degree, whether it's fake or genuine.
Most of them are highly educated.
Yeah, but when you look at corruption, corruption is domiciled both at the national government, which is run by people with high qualifications, and even the counties. They actually make the MCAs who don't have serious academic qualifications look like angels.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad it is the friends of NASA who are trying to deliberate on academic issues. For us, we have no issues. Because I was shocked at one point when Mombasa County government advertised for staff recruitments, or they had written master's degree qualification, 7 years experience. You see, and it is now again that their boss has issues with academics. That one is subject to the relevant bodies.
To be fair, he's not the only leader we've seen who's had problems with credentials. We've seen Mike Sonko, we've seen Ferdinand Waititu as well. And they are in Jubilee? For
us, the battlefield, you will not see the kind of issues you are seeing in NASA. If you are summoned for your academic issue, that one is a personal issue that you go and clarify yourself, because it's you who knows from your conscience that you set for an exam and you had failed. And failing is not the end of life, as Prof had said. The only thing we should not do is to glorify failure. That one is
we
what
are doing. You think we're
like
doing
we
that
are doing.
now?
That one is wrong direction.
I
also maybe to finish on the issue of academics, the Jubilee administration has scrapped out that issue that a young man from university is expected to come with a 7 years degree, with a 7 years experience. Where is he going to get that from? Someone has just completed university
at like 23 years.
Yes, at 23 years. If there is a job opportunity, why don't he be absorbed at some level so that he grows up the ladder? So I think those are some of the issues that we had considered in our manifest, and we are urging our friends in opposition to copy and paste that in their manifest and various counties.
What this must was talking about.
Yeah,
because he finally agrees with me that manifesto is copy and paste.
All right.
Okay, let us let
actually,
Professor
I wanted to make a point of general principle that in the very complex world today, it's now agreed that most successful people are people who have a higher ratio of emotional intelligence to academic IQ, academic intelligence. Now, if you use that as a guideline, as a general guideline, you will see very clearly that a lot of the people who get C's in school or D's in school out here, they know how to navigate their way around the world. Now, that does not then mean that you stand on a pedestal and belittle everybody else, because the talent is randomly distributed. Yeah. You will find a person who cannot do who cannot resolve an algebraic equation, but this person can move 1 million tons of cement from Mombasa to Entebbe, which means he creates jobs, which means he creates opportunities, he develops talents, and he enriches society. Okay. The point we're making is, and this is the bottom line in my view, as long as His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta is president, he must be very, very careful not to personalize a general matter like if you have broken the law, if you have faked your results. This must not degenerate into a personal confrontation that makes the person being interrogated behave like a victim.
All right, there's yes, just finish, Prof.
I wanted to finish by saying that at the same time, it is extremely important to notice that because of a lack of respect for those who have achieved in certain areas, specific areas, especially professional areas, the generalists, they know nothing and they know everything, is the one actually driving the political matrix of the country.
The conversation, there's a narrative that coast is up for grabs. Jubilee once again has been trying to make major inroads in coast. Remember, if we go to how they voted in 2013, we would say it's typically an opposition zone, but the number of trips we've seen the president make if we take a look at since the beginning of the year, they come to almost 7 of trips since the year started. And Joho is seen to be the point man of the opposition at the coast, and he's giving people from the Jubilee side a headache when it comes to them trying to make an inroad. Could this be the reason why he is a targeted man? I'll start with you, Yusuf.
No. I think that one is an off-point issue. For us, our visits to Mombasa have mainly been development agendas. We have never been there for leisure or vacation trips. We have only gone there as part of the president's role to equally distribute resources and make developments, whether you have voted for him, regardless of whether you have voted for him or not.
But it would be good to note that these are used as campaign tools.
And you see, one thing that our fellows in NASA should appreciate, the largest defections are coming from Mombasa County, where we have a large number of the MPs and governors, incumbents, who are coming to the development circle, assist the president in developing issues. My brother and the governor there is very busy trying to wash away those agendas and development, claiming that this is mine, those are not the points.
But you agree this particular development projects you're talking about are being used as campaign tools by the president?
You see, what matters here, my sister, is the objective. The objective is to development. That development record remains there.
So
whether Uhuru is in power or not, that one is a benefit to the society down there.
Are they being used as campaign tools?
Definitely,
Thank you. All right, next.
I mean, it is part of our manifest that we are selling.
All right, yes.
Akisa, Mombasa is part of Kenya. There's even a state house, Mombasa.
Yeah.
So it means that when the nation was being created, there was a provision that if the president wants to go to Mombasa, he has a home where he's going to work from. But let's look at the motive for his visits. The president has done many visits, and the deputy president has done the same. In fact, Mombasa has witnessed a very high bed occupancy because of the president's visit, and as well as Raila Odinga. Even Raila Odinga, anytime President Kenyatta makes a visit, a week later, Raila Odinga must go there and try to neutralize the political mileage which has been made. And it would be naive for us to assume that the president has been going to Mombasa just on purely a working tour. He goes to Mombasa simply because of Governor Alias and Joe, who has become a pain in the wrong place. Because every time he goes to Mombasa and does anything, Governor Joe will come back and say, this project was initiated, say, by the coalition government. So if we need to give anybody credit, it's Kibaki and Raila Odinga. And then he's now had the opportunity of trying to make sure that the entire coast is safe and secure, going to Kilifi, going to so many places. You would even recall the regional county administrator, Mr. Marwa, saying that Governor Joe should restrict himself to Mombasa. He should not get out of Mombasa to go to the other areas to do any campaigns. And if you want to know that Governor Joe and Kingi and his colleagues are very strong, just look at the outcome of the Malindi by-election, whereby the Jubilee administration spent the last coin to ensure that one of their own got elected, but that was not the case. Granted that there was an increased turnout for the Jubilee candidate, but you know, in politics, it's the first man past the poll, the person who wins. There's no number two in politics. Yeah. If you win a by-election, your guy goes to the National Assembly or he assumes office. So we cannot ignore what Joe has done in Mombasa.
Okay. Before I get to you, Prof, you mentioned something very important, that each and every time the president initiates a project, Governor Joho will come back and say they are not the ones who initiate. Does it matter who initiated the project, or does it matter who implemented it and ensured that that project was completed?
You know, for the voters, most of the voters in Kenya are largely emotional. And most of them, again, are fed on propaganda. So if you give voters the wrong information and you repeat it over time, eventually they'll begin to believe that, in fact, is the case. So it's the duty of Governor Joe, from his own perspective in Mombasa, to try and correct any misinformation which has been delivered by President Kenyatta. And don't forget that for him, he sees every single opportunity as a campaign event. Because when he goes to say, like for instance, when there was a footbridge which was launched not long ago, he said this is a grand coalition project. What he was doing is, because he has read the 48 rules of power, despite his D-, he knows that you can never ever outshine your boss. So he was getting the credit from President Kenyatta and giving the credit to President Kibaki and Raila Odinga, which he has done very well. And he needs to be very careful, because when they were in the meeting yesterday in Wajir, the crowd wanted Joe to address them, not even the other NASA principals. So if Joe does not manage his brand very well today and tone down, he'll find that his political competition is not even President Kenyatta. It could be his party leader.
Prof.
Actually, I see this whole conflict from the perspective of Mombasa County residents. Historically, have seen themselves as a marginalized group. Now, what Joe has done is taken this cloak of marginalization and wrapped himself in it. Now, from a strategic perspective, it's extremely important that the president and his team do not go for the overkill. I listened to one of the big strategic advisors of Jubilee, Professor Kagwanja, and his tone was like, go in, finish Joho, and everything will be settled. My understanding of the political landscape is that if you do not handle the Joe issue very carefully, all right, it will be seen as a victimization for the coast people. And everybody who supports Jubilee will be portrayed as a traitor.
Yeah.
It's a very delicate balance that must be struck. And at the same time, Joe himself, he's made it too personal. Instead of, first of all, he has clothed himself in that underdog attire. Instead of staying within that attire.
Could it be a strategy?
I think it's a highly risky strategy, because where he has reached now is sufficiently noticeable to survive, but he is stepping well beyond.
He's going to the extreme.
Yes, he's going to the extreme, where he must. What he doesn't seem to recognize immediately is that the president is carrying the country, right? His room for operation is much, much larger than Joho's. Yeah. So you can't stand there and say this whole system is rubbish. No, Joho must mind his words, he must mind his audience, he must mind the long-term strategic disaster that he could spell by overstepping his limits.
Gentlemen, as we finish on this, could this be politics of 2022 at play? Joho has said that he wants to vie for presidency in 2022.
It will be irrelevant for us to talk about 2022 when your degree has issues in the first place. So for me, I am glad that the Prof has echoed a very important issue across the board, that everyone should pick that for free. That the issue of presidency is very different because Joho is just one governor among the 47 governors we have in the country. The president goes all over the country, initiating projects, going to listen to his people. Once you are hosting the president, it's very different from a political party function or a political rally. These are places where you meet and talk about development issues to benefit the people you are leading.
All right, Dismas, you'll have the last word on this.
Well, you know, what Joe must do today is to tamper down on what people actually refer to outburst, and appreciate the fact that the president is a symbol of national unity. You may not like the current office bearer, but you must respect the institution. But on the same note, also the president, President Kenyatta, he must not start engaging with governors in a fight. And you know, it's not only Governor Joe that he is engaged in a fight with. He did the same with Nanok. And when you look at the president fighting Nanok, and then he's fighting, or rather not fighting, but engaging in this altercation with Nanok, then he's doing the same with Joe and many other governors, it doesn't make sense. And you also saw the other day that the deputy president is also engaged in altercation with the Bomet governor. Yeah. So I think the presidency, the president and his deputy, if they want to engage with these governors, they must get some special purpose vehicle. They must get some MPs like I see Moses Kuda doing, or other people that they can unleash on the governors so that we maintain that respect for the presidency.
All right, we close it that on Joho. Let's take a short commercial break. Coming back, we'll be focusing on NASA and that quote-unquote looming exit from Wiper. Of course, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has maintained that they are in NASA to stay. But what are the dynamics? Why is there suddenly pressure for him to either get the ticket or bolt? We'll be coming back with that discussion here on Sunday Edition shortly on Go to 5.